Welcome in. It is the North Side Baseball Podcast. He is Jason Ross. I am Mitch Widmeyer. As always, we are talking anything and everything Chicago Cubs baseball. The West Coast trip continues this evening. Game 2 of the set against Arizona. Kevin Gausman whirling a gem last night for the Cubs. We'll talk about the early returns on Gausman after he came over from Toronto. Klay Holmes on the bump tonight for Chicago as they try to take Game 2 of the series against Arizona. We've got a lot to talk about. It's good to be back. Going to be chit-chatting about the Cubbies with you, Jason. And
yes,
for those watching, obviously, live on YouTube, you can see the topics laid out to the right of the screen. This was actually tough for me when I was kind of going through it. And, we bounce ideas off each other for, what we should talk about at times. And I was kind of thinking, like, what do we lead with today? Because, with what Gausman did last night, 7 innings shutout ball, and it was his first time going 7 innings without allowing a run so far this year. And then Klay Holmes on the bump tonight. But I was like, man, I feel like we should probably start with the absolute tear that Alex Bregman has been on for a prolonged period of time now.
Yes.
And I was trying to look at splits and, it's hard to like with certain players because you have to try. I didn't want to do first half, second half because that's not really what it's necessarily been entirely for Bregman. But then you look at hitters who came out of the gate slow and then you pinpoint maybe a date in like May or June or whatever, and then look at it post that. But I was wondering, is there anyone who's turned their season around more to you at the plate than Alex Bregman? Like, I know we also wear the Cubs. I know we wear the Cubs, glasses because it's our team and we watch them more than any other team we watch. But I'm looking around baseball and I'm like, my goodness, I can't think off the top of my head, and even looking at some players who have had big turnarounds this year, of another one who's just completely done a 180 on their season for the better, because he has been the Alex Bregman the Cubs thought they were getting as advertised during this prolonged stretch.
Yeah, the only other one that came to my head, it's Alejandro Kirk. He had a terrible first half of the season, 63 WRC plus in the first half. He's been on a tear in the second half as well, but Alex Bregman has been awesome, and it's good to see. He took undue kind of social media and fan backlash from the beginning of the season. Guys just don't really fall off a cliff like Bregman does and or had in the first half, and a lot of times when they do, there's like an underlying cause to it. Maybe they're not hard workers, or maybe they let themselves go, and nothing Alex Bregman does makes you think that this isn't a guy who's going to work through everything, who isn't going to try really hard. I know, the whole cheating scandal in Houston and everything like that he was, but like, I put that aside. This is somebody who has been talked about as being a phenomenal clubhouse guy. He always gave off the vibes that he was going to be a hard worker. So it never made sense that it wasn't going to click for him. But it certainly has in the second half. He's been absolutely fantastic.
He has, and he, with what Pete Crow Armstrong has done this year, and then you get another guy like Bregman, and we know the cloth that he's cut from. His resume speaks for itself. To get him to be able to find himself, it's an offense that's already been humming for, damn near most of the year. Every team goes through certain droughts, right? You're not going to be, solid game one all the way to 162, but the Cubs offense has been pretty much as good as any others. And when you get Bregman going like this, you start to look at the top of the order, and it's like, man, that's definitely inflicting some fear into the opposition. So it's certainly good to see Alex Bregman back. And I don't know, Jason, the eye test, because I've been watching more closely now the last couple of weeks while he's been going on this rampage, if you will. And I don't think he necessarily looked like wildly uncomfortable at the plate when he was off to his slow start. But I will say, even the last couple of weeks, 2, 3, 4, whatever, he just looks so comfortable. Like, he just looks like he's in his rhythm. And if he can carry that through September into October, it's gonna do wonders for the Cubs offense. There's no doubt about it.
It really will. One of the things that I really kind of wanted to point out when we were going to talk Alex Bregman was the 2 home run game he had in Seattle. Friday night, I believe, was the 2 home run game, or it was Saturday. It was one of the two. I can't remember which game it was off the top of my head. But
I think it was Saturday, because they went to.
It was Saturday. Yeah, I think it was Saturday.
Yeah,
it was early enough to where I could actually watch the game over on the East Coast. So that checks out. But he hit 2 home runs that day, and they were both off of breaking pitches. And it dates back to something that Matt Trueblood had written on Northside a couple weeks ago, in that one of the changes that Alex Bregman had been showing even before like the tear really started was he got a little deeper in the box. And he's not making contact so far out in front of the ball. And one of the things that he was really struggling on this year was breaking balls. Like breaking balls is something that he's never really super struggled on, but this year he was really struggling on them. And he was kind of chopping everything into the ground. So if you looked at his data, especially like early on in the season and everything like that, one of the things that you can see in terms of the batted ball. So, we don't necessarily just want to use like first half, second half, but it's just an easy kind of delineator for us right now. So, if we're looking at his kind of general look and vibe throughout the season, we're looking at like ground ball rates and things like that. He was somebody who was hitting the ball not necessarily super soft earlier. He had 36.6 hard hit percentage. That's not pathetic. The 4.2 barrel percentage, not great. The exit velocity was down, but what he was doing was hitting a lot of balls on the ground. And that's just not something that we normally see from him. He's usually a pretty high fly ball guy. So first half of the season, 38.2% ground ball percentage. He moves himself back, and all of a sudden, we see that ground ball percentage. It's dropped a little bit to 37.9% on the whole. It's a very small fraction, and it doesn't tell the real story. What he's doing is not rolling over on the breaking ball. So the ground ball percentage is kind of hiding that in there, where he hit those 2 home runs specifically on sliders. I think he chops those things right into the ground. He's 2 out in front of them early in the season. He steps a little bit back. He lets that ball travel just a little bit more. He gets home runs off those pitches. And I think that's a big change for him. And you can just kind of see that. It's funny because, again, you would look at that ground ball rate and you would say, well, nothing's really changed there. And he's still going to hit some ground balls, but it's being on time on that breaking ball just a little bit so that instead of rolling over to the shortstop, he's able to kind of get that bat head right there and kind of barrel that ball up and get it out. And I think it's a lot of fun on those home runs because very rarely do you hit does he hit a home run and you're like, oh man, that's gone off the bat. What I've noticed with a lot of his home runs is that they kind of, they're not like super long home runs, but they do get out and kind of a little bit of a razor's edge on that aspect from him, but just that little change, get a little bit further in the box, letting that breaking ball just come just a little bit to him seems to have really made the difference. And I don't think he has a 2 home run game on 2 sliders, in May, and because of that little change.
Well said. Northside Baseball Podcast. He is Jason Ross. I'm Mitch Woodmeyer. Cubs get set for Game 2 of the series against Arizona. Tonight, Diamondbacks fighting for a wild card spot. Cubs currently holding down the top wild card spot. Still an outside chance to perhaps claim the NL Central. We'll get to that down the road here when we talk playoff picture. All right, Kevin Gausman, 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 6 punchies last night. And the one thing I noticed early on, first 2-3 innings, Mike, am I watching this right, or is he just throwing a ton of fastballs? And then the broadcast.
Oh man, thank you. Yeah, I have this queued up. You were setting me up on T perfect.
Yeah, let me feed it into you then, man. Because I'm watching it and I'm like, feels like he's throwing a ton of fastballs, and then I'm like, well, he hasn't started that many games for the Cubs. And I'll be honest, I'm not locked into every Kevin Gausman start when he was in Toronto. Yeah. And I'm like, but this just feels like an abnormal amount of fastballs. And then surely enough, the broadcast in the 5th, 6th inning starts picking up like, man, he's pitching a lot of fastballs. And so I waited for the data to come out after the game, and he threw his fastball a little over 66% of the time last night, which, to slap some perspective on it, was up 15% from his average this year. And of course, if you're up in the fastball, something's going to take a hit elsewhere. And it was the split. The split was down 10% on his season average in terms of usage for that start last night. And he trusted it. And a lot of them were like center cut fastballs, but
thank you, man. You are absolute. You teed me up perfect.
Yeah,
absolute perfect. We did not. I just want to put out, we did not rehearse this beforehand. He had no idea that this is what I was going with. So thank you, Mitch. Absolutely perfect tee up.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say on it too, and then it's I'll roll out the red carpet for you, is I was like, are the Diamondbacks just like a crappy team against fastballs? And it was more zoned in on they've struggled against fastballs from right-handed pitching this year is what it was. So, man, I mean, you tip your cap to Kevin Gausman, you tip your cap to Tommy Hotovy, whoever came up with this blueprint, because it was peppering fastballs all 7 innings, and the Diamondbacks couldn't figure it out. They could not figure it out.
So you hit on the 2 exact things that I wanted to talk about today. This is a tweet that comes from Nate Roper. If you do not follow Nate Roper on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it, follow Nate Roper on Twitter. Absolute genius when it comes to pitching. So he had a tweet that came out last night, and then he followed it up with some extra, and I wanted to share it because I think it's phenomenal, and it kind of leads me into what we were going to talk about. So I ask you a question, because I think part of this will give it away. Kevin Gausman is one of 3 pitchers who have thrown more center cut 4-seam fastballs than anybody else in baseball this season. Can you name the other 2?
Oh my gosh, no! I'd have to really, really think about it. So you said more center cut fastballs,
more center cut 4-seam fastballs down the pipe than any other pitcher in baseball.
Who are
Kevin
they?
Gausman's number 1. Jacob Mizorowski's number 2. Chase Burns is number 3. So Gausman kind of sticks out because he doesn't throw super hard comparative. However, he funnels that fastball down the pipe, right? And we look at it last night. He gave up 1 hit on a fastball. He had the XBA for the Diamondbacks last night, 186. If we look, the Diamondbacks are not a bad team against fastballs. They're 345 WOBA against them on the season, but Nate kind of surmised it, and he doesn't really have an answer to it. And I think it's probably something that I don't have an answer to either. But he talked a lot about how his fastball down the middle plays off of his splitter very well. So what we saw last night was more of a fastball usage from Kevin Gausman, but also a lot of the Kevin Gausman experience is fastballs right down the plate. And you can go on his Savant page and you can see where his placement of his fastball is. And I mean, it is a red dot right in the middle. It's not something that you normally see. I mean, you look at Shota Imanaga and that dot's up there in that upper third.
Yep.
Gausman's just throwing it right down Broadway, but it works for him as Nate kind of surmised. And I probably agree with it. I haven't had a chance to really super dig into it, but that by throwing his fastball down the middle, it causes a difficult point for hitters. Kevin Gausman is very tall and he has a lot of extension. So even though his fastball sits 93 and a half miles an hour, it ticks up. And it ticks up because he's a 76th percentile extension guy. So he's got a lot of extension and he's got a lot of chase on that split finger, probably because that fastball and that split finger pull off of each other. And that split finger kind of dies on you, whereas that fastball stays down the plate. If that fastball was the upper third, it probably doesn't have the same tunneling as the split finger. We definitely don't want to throw fastballs in the bottom third of the zone anymore. Sitting there and you're thinking, well, that's how you get ground balls. That's how you get home runs. Bat pass today just lead you right into bottom third fastballs. So I'm glad that you brought that up because I saw this tweet during the game. I saw some of this stuff afterwards, and I think it's just fascinating that somebody like Gausman can get away with the center cut fastball in a way that Jacob Mizorowski, who throws at 102 miles an hour, can. And they do it very differently. But I do think that the reason that Gausman gets his, as Nate kind of suggested, I think the reason his fastball gets away with it is because of the split finger. So I think if he didn't have that split finger and he wasn't as good with that pitch, that fastball gets probably pummeled a lot more. But it's interesting. You talked about the punch outs. He had 6 strikeouts last night. He only had 6 swings and misses, which also makes sense. He threw a lot of fastballs. Fastballs don't get a lot of miss on its own, and Gausman is usually a swing and miss guy. So just a really good game plan from Gausman. Really good game plan from him on executing. I think that split finger is, again, if you look at the player breakdown on Statcast, where you can see how many fastballs he threw. You can also see how well he did on the split finger last night. And I mean, he just absolutely, that split finger was still a really good pitch last night, even though he didn't throw it a lot. He threw it as a first pitch strike a lot. So he was in the zone all night last night, which is part of the reason why his chase percentage was down. He threw 71% of his pitches for strikes last night, that's an absurdly high number. So he attacked the zone. He made the Diamondbacks come to have just a lot of really weak contact. And, I think one of the things that you can kind of look at there is just that it kind of letting the Diamondbacks beat you themselves. And I love the game plan. I love the game last night. Thought it was a really, really good effort.
Yeah, it was. And he works quickly on the mound, which is why I think I and many others, you include, like, picked up on it early. It's just like gets the ball. He has like a weird routine between pitches.
The feet.
Toe taps both feet, flips the ball in his hand, and then does this with his arms, and then he's ready. And I was just
baseball
like,
players, man, we're weird.
Yeah, I know, man. I know. But then, he still beyond that works quickly. And I was, it's a late start, so I'm watching the Cubs anyways. But sometimes I'll have the Cubs on and then another game on, right? But I was just locking the Cubs, and early on it was just like fastball for strikes too.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? It's just all 7 innings he didn't change course because he didn't need to.
And it's crazy. Normally his split finger, when we think of split fingers, they're traditionally like an offhanded like out-getter. Like if you're going against like somebody who is offhanded, so if you're right-handed, a left-handed hitter, there are pitches you want to throw and there are pitches you don't want to throw. Offhanded hitters, you don't want to throw a slider that's going to break into the zone. You don't want to throw sinkers; those are easily hit. You kind of want to go change up, split finger, cutter. Like those are your wins. If you want to know why Aaron Savale is doing well with the Cubs, both of the times he's shown up in Chicago, the Cubs had this genius idea that, hey, you kind of suck against lefties. Maybe throw your cutter and split finger more. And shocker, it works. He went to Sacramento. The A's scrapped that plan immediately. He gets absolutely shelled out there, gets DFA'd. Cubs pick him up. What happens? Shoots right through the roof. He's pitching great. So Kevin Gausman, you'd think, heavy split finger, lots to the lefties in the lineup for the Diamondbacks last night. Opposite. He went 71% four-seam fastball against the lefties specifically, which is up from his numbers against righties. So just a really fascinating game plan, a really interesting way of attacking the hitters. Kind of a way that you don't normally kind of put on paper that you would expect. But I also think an interesting one. And as we kind of move into the Klay Holmes talk, if you want a preview of what Klay Holmes is probably going to do tonight, probably I don't think that the game plan is necessarily going to be that different. Now it's a lot of sinkers from Klay Holmes. Correct. Klay Holmes is a sinker changeup guy, but I would guess you're probably going to see a heavy dose of that sinker again. I mean, Klay Holmes is going to throw a heavy dose of that sinker already, but I would expect probably a lot of strikes tonight, and again, let the Diamondbacks kind of get themselves out.
Yeah, let's we'll transition right into that talk with Klay Holmes. Last 2 starts for the Cubs, 12 innings combined, just 1 run allowed. Outside of that little hiccup in his first start with the Cubs, that was also his first, time back on the mound after some time off due to injury. He's settling in for sure. So it'll be interesting, like you said, to see what he does with that sinker changeup. And he's a big, ground ball pitcher. I believe the Diamondbacks are near the bottom of the league in ground ball percentage post All-Star break. I was trying to look that up today. Meaning they don't hit a lot of ground balls. So it'll be a fascinating matchup nonetheless. But again, I would say, if we want to talk Klay Holmes early returns, certainly looks like a guy that, we don't want to foreshadow or look at too far. But if the Cubs were to be in the wild card in a best of 3 right out of the gates, Klay Holmes is going one of those first 2 games. Like, I feel like he has to be going one of those first 2 games based off what the expectation should be and how he's looked, especially his last 2 starts.
Yeah, I had actually just wrote an article about Shota Imanaga where I kind of talked about that on North Side last week about how to best use him in the playoffs. And, one of the things that I think you can kind of, I wouldn't write it in permanent marker yet, but I would start considering it in pen that Klay Holmes and Kevin Gausman are probably getting starts in the playoffs. Like those guys are getting starts, whether it's Matthew Boyd or Shota Imanaga. I think you can coin flip it. But I think that Holmes is definitely going to be in that mix. It kind of sucks a little bit for Holmes in that Dansby Swanson's hurt because this is a heavy ground ball pitcher, and the Cubs just lost arguably one of the best shortstops in baseball on this with some new first base tracking. And I don't know if you've caught this, but in the last week, StatCast dropped off some new StatCast data in terms of how first basemen receive throws.
And wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And shocking. Michael Busch actually doesn't grade out very well there, which makes sense. He's not super tall. Length helps with that. One of the reasons, though, he actually grades out as average, and I think average is doing some work for him, is that the Chicago Cubs have the most accurate throws to first base of any team in baseball.
Not
any
surprising.
team in baseball. Nico Horner and Dansby Swanson are a massive point in that. And so it kind of starts to put first base defense into perspective, in that it's, a lot of times we think of, guys making picks, guys extending, but like, you can make your first baseman better if you make better throws. And now we're seeing like data behind that Michael Busch, who is below average at balls in the dirt, below average at longer throws, which makes sense, as a shorter guy. It's harder to get to those. Even with the balls in the dirt, Matt Trueblood made a great point in this, that if you are a short first baseman, you would think it might be easier to get the ball in the dirt because there's less real estate to get down there. But if you're taller, you can stop that ball from ever hopping to begin with. You can catch it on better bounces. Like, you can better position yourself. And because Dansby Swanson and Nico Horner are so darn good at that, they help out Michael Busch in the same way that they help out somebody like Klay Holmes. So it's going to be a little bit of a bummer that we don't see that. I'm kind of interested to see what the lineup looks like tonight. This kind of feels like, Pedro Ramirez has been really good lately.
Gosh, he's fun.
He's fun, but defensively at second base, he's okay. Nico Horner at shortstop. One of the big issues with Nico, his arm's just so weak that he has a tendency to leave those balls short. At shortstop. At second base, super accurate, much shorter throw. But after arm injuries and everything like that, he does have a tendency to get a little short on those throws. Well, I know you mentioned Diamondbacks don't hit a lot of ground balls, and they don't. They're bottom 10%. They're bottom 10 teams in the league. However, Gabriel, Arias is a pretty good defensive shortstop. And I do wonder if they try to slide him into the lineup tonight to kind of protect Klay Holmes a little bit. I don't think we're probably going to see a lot of them, but like, tonight feels like if you're going to use them, you might as well use them tonight. So I do wonder about that. Overall, though, Klay Holmes has been good. I would like to see the velocity tick up a little bit. We aren't seeing necessarily the velocity that we kind of always have him on every one of his starts. His last start was better. So his second start with St. Louis, he was kind of down at 92.7. And even against the White Sox, he kind of started a little slow in the first inning. I would like to see a little bit more consistent on the velocity there. But he's still coming back from an injury, so you can kind of hand wave it away. I'm still excited to see him. I like Klay Holmes. I think he's going to fit really good in with the defense, especially when we get Dansby back. But I mean, between Gausman and Holmes, you're getting what you wanted. You wanted innings, you wanted outs, and I think more than not, both of them had a hiccup here or there, but more than not, they're kind of showing you why you traded for them.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you won't get your wish. The lineup came out 2 minutes ago. It's status quo lineup. It's
that's not my wish. I would much rather have Pedro Ramirez in.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
Listen,
you said if there was a game to do it, go
if
ahead.
there was a game, that would have been kind of the game that you put him in. A more experienced normal shortstop. If on a heavy ground ball day. But it's fine. Listen, if the downside is that Pedro Ramirez has, twist my arm, buddy. I think like, oh no, what a terrible night that Pedro Ramirez, who hit a grand slam 2 games ago and hit a triple again last night, is playing. Oh no, what a terrible outcome.
Yep. PCA say Michael Busch, Bregman, Happ, Horner, Pedro Ramirez, Conforto, DH, and Amaya behind the plate is the lineup for the Cubs tonight. So Carson Kelly gets the night off. He went yard last night, back to back with Conforto. Conforto's was a moonshot too.
Yeah, it was, man. That was a big one.
Had himself a night down in the desert. Northside Baseball Podcast, Mitch Whitmire, Jason Ross with you, rolling through it. Cubs first pitch with, I think it's 8:40 Central Standard Time. His first pitch tonight as the Cubs look to take Game 2 against Arizona with Klay Holmes on the bump. We do this segment every single week through. There's a once in a great while where, the off time carries over for the minors and maybe we don't, but we do it almost every week, every podcast episode. It's the minor league report. So I throw the microphone over to you, Jason Ross.
Cool. We are going to start with somebody that I just wrote an article on today, and we're going to talk about him as a September call-up. That's Owen Ayers. I think we need to have a real conversation about whether or not he's getting called up in a week. My hunch is yes. I think that we're going to see Owen Ayers as a September call-up. I think he fits the roster needs as of right now. And I kind of like a lot of the underlying data. So we've talked about Owen Ayers a bunch this year. I'm not going to shut up about him anytime soon. I think he's probably going to be on the Major League roster on opening day next year. But next week, the Cubs are going to have to make a decision in terms of who they're going to call up for September 1st. And as rosters expand from 26 to 28, there's a host of options that the Cubs could go with. They could go with Kevin Alcantara, who, the team, he's up right now, but Matt Shaw is about to come back, so somebody's going to have to go down. It could be Gabriel Arias, it could be Kevin Alcantara. We'll have to see, but I think the Cubs are kind of telling you a little bit that they're not super enthused with Alcantara as kind of a long-term guy. So, I'm not quite certain he'll be the guy. James Triantos is going to bring a lot of versatility, but if you have Pedro Ramirez and you have Matt Shaw, you probably don't need a lot of versatility, guys who can just kind of do a bunch of things. And Triantos isn't going to really do any of them super great. He's all right. He can give you some base running. Justin Dean is a guy that you could put in the outfield as a potential, base running kind of guy. But I think Owen Ayers fits two things. One, he fits third catcher. A lot of times you want a third catcher in September. It just gives you options. Go into a 10th inning game. You've already pinch hit for Carson Kelly. He's sitting. You've got Miguel Amaya on second base. You're thinking, I don't really want Miguel Amaya to run. Just to kind of clarify where his foot speed would be. Miguel Amaya is in the 9th percentile in foot speed. Like he's listen, slow would be an improvement. On a normal game, when you only have two catchers and you've already pulled one, you started with the lefty, you got a righty come up, you wanted to go with Amaya in a better spot. Now he's starting off at second base. You go, I don't really want him running, especially if Pete's up. Like Pete can put the ball in play. Maybe you're looking at, you got Matt Shaw on the bench. Matt Shaw can't catch, but Matt Shaw and Owen Ayers on the bench as your 28th guy, all of a sudden you do have a catcher next inning. So you can make a little bit of decisions. Owen Ayers is more athletic. So he could even be more of a pinch runner. And I think most importantly, Owen Ayers has history playing first base. None of the players I've listed can play first base. Look at the Cubs roster right now. Nobody can play first base. Your first base options are kind of like one of the backup catchers, but then you've got them both in the lineup and you cause issues in that way. Two, Pedro Ramirez, who played a game at first base, and he is not tall enough to be a first baseman. I just went over the whole short guys at first base don't catch the ball that aren't perfect thing, and you don't have Dansby Swanson, you moved Nico Horner over. He's also playing second base, so you've got another problem there. Ian Happ hasn't played first base for a long time. There's nobody else. They already traded Jonathan Long to Florida, in Miami. So who's your backup first baseman right now? They don't have one. There is a reason, and you missed this in our last episode, but and I don't know if you listened to it or anything like that. And if you didn't, Mitch, do you know who has the most here? Do you know who has the second most plate appearance, the first most plate appearances in baseball?
I do not.
The season? It's Alex Bregman. Do you know who has the second most plate appearances in baseball?
Is it another Cub?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Pete Crow Armstrong. You know who has the 5th most plate appearances in baseball?
Another Cub.
It's Michael Busch. And the Cubs don't have a backup first baseman for Michael Busch. So, you can see why Bregman and PCA are playing every day. They are, especially right now, Bregman is absolutely on fire. He's a great defensive player. Pete Crow Armstrong, he's your MVP. I'm sorry. And he showed us stands out there. If we've got Dodger fans who are checking in on us right now, sorry, Pete Crow Armstrong's the MVP. But Michael Busch isn't been hitting like those guys. And it'd probably be good to get him a day off or two. enter Owen Ayers. If you look at his data right now in AAA, it shouldn't wow you. 101 WRC plus, that's fine. But I think we've got a few things that are caveats. First, the International League is stupid for hitters. I mean, like if you don't have 1,000 OPS, like you're terrible in the International League right now. He's got a 270 batting average. He's got a 370 on base percentage. He's in the 90th percentile in walks. The only thing that hasn't shown up is power, and he's actually been going through some mechanical changes. Over his last 30 plate appearances, though, he has an xWOBA of 434. The guy's crushing the ball since he switched his stance up a little bit. It's just not finding home runs yet. I'm not worried about it. He's a switch hitter. I think the goal is that Owen Ayers is Carson Kelly next year. Like he's the Carson Kelly guy. Carson Kelly has a player option for a mutual option for $7.5 million next year. He's not going to pick that up. At the very least, he's going to get multiple years at $10 million on the free agent market. Like somebody's going to give him $10 million. They're going to give him a couple years, and it's not going to be the Cubs with Owen Ayers waiting in the wings. So I think Owen Ayers is the next guy. I think the organization loves him. If you know who Jerry Weinstein is, Jerry Weinstein is the Cubs catching coach. He does not stop tweeting about Owen Ayers defense. Like his entire feed is basically Owen Ayers. I mean, it's a ton. Like if we're looking at it, can't make this up. Like you go on his feed, you will see him just point out tweet after tweet about how good Owen Ayers is doing down in AAA. Just a wonderful baseball coach. You can tell how much they really adore Owen Ayers. So I think he's coming up in September to get his feet wet, to play catcher a couple times. Not a lot. He's a third catcher. I'm thinking like he starts 5 games, like max, like over the course of the time. But I think he comes up. So Owen Ayers is somebody that we should probably talk about. If we're going to talk about Owen Ayers, we have to talk about Josiah Hartshorn. He became the newest teenage Cub to hit 20 home runs.
Saw that.
Yeah. Since Corey Patterson, last one. So like he's had just a phenomenal, fantastic season this year. Sorry, not game. A fantastic season. Hit another home run the other day. You can't say enough good things about what he's doing. Jackson Wiggins has been moved to the bullpen recently. It's been up and down. Unlike Owen Ayers, he's not coming up. I don't think that we see Wiggins. He's too deep on the depth chart. We've got too many other guys who are about to pop. And
can I jump in for a second?
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask you, if you didn't mention Jackson Wiggins, I was going to ask you if you thought there was any chance he'd come up as a bullpen arm. And then when you think about it, the Cubs are slated to be still getting back quite a few arms that will probably end up in the bullpen. And so I thought it was one of those,
I think.
Yeah, even if he's, lighting it up, I think it'd be an odd man out situation for this year with Jackson.
And he's
Wiggins.
not lighting it up. His velocity is not great right now. Even in the bullpen, he's sitting at like 98. That's not enough for him. The Wiggins should be hitting 100 easy in the bullpen if he was right all the way. He was hitting 100 last year as a starter in the 6th and 7th inning, and he can't hit 98 consistently right now out of the bullpen. That doesn't mean that I think his elbow's broken. I think he didn't pitch for basically a full year, and he's coming back and he's very rusty. But I would not trust him. He had his first good outing, like maybe all year the other day, and it was 1 inning. So like we are not at Jackson Wiggins watch. So I wouldn't bring him up. In terms of other minor league report, we're going to kind of stretch that concept a little bit. Justin Steele was seen throwing to live batters today. Ben Brown seen throwing to live batters today.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Steele's was interesting. I don't know if you caught this. It was an up and down. So they had him pitch. They sat him down. Then they had him pitch again. Something that a multi-inning reliever would do. Ben Brown threw the 3 hitters, and they said, not enough. We're doing a 4-hitter inning. They did this with Shelby Miller as well. Shelby Miller has been sitting in Iowa. He is who I think is going to essentially be your second September call-up. It's going to be Shelby Miller, which is wild. I talked to Jeremy about this last week. I'm going to point it out again. I cannot believe I am sitting here in 2026, not only saying Shelby Miller is going to be a September call-up, but then I'm excited about it. Like that is wild to me. 2016 Jason Ross despised Shelby Miller. I thought he was terrible. 2021, Jason Ross thought Shelby Miller was terrible in his very short stint with the Cubs, as that was just a really long year. 2026, I'm super jazzed, man.
Yeah.
Shelby Miller is not the same guy. He's throwing his fastball really well in Iowa right now. It's 95.5, which is right at where it was last year. This is a miracle for a guy who had Tommy John surgery. Like a miracle for this guy to be throwing as well as he is. Ignore the ERA down there. It just means nothing. He's so many small sample sizes. The stuff looks great. He's getting big whiffs. I think Shelby Miller is not only somebody that I think is one of the 26 best Chicago Cubs players. I think he's somebody that I think can earn important innings in September and October with this team. He is a reverse splits guy. So if you want to say designate for an assignment a 39-year-old lefty with a home run problem, it's he would make a decent, other
with the reverse splits. You're saying,
yeah, with the reverse splits, yeah, maybe you don't trust that lefty Caleb Thielbar anymore, and which sucks because he's had some moments, but it feels like it's a slog for him right now.
Yeah, he's had moments, but we're talking big moments, playoffs. You're in a bind. I'm not trusting that right now. Like I
don't trust him, and I don't think he can build up trust again through September. I just don't. And so I think Shelby Miller's an option in that space too. So that's kind of like where we're at. Like right now, the minor league report is mostly like who are we going to see in September? Because most of these teams, once September 1 hits, they have about 2 to 3 weeks left if they make the playoffs. Like Iowa doesn't make the playoffs this year. They had good prospects there, but as a team, they've been terrible. And that's because the Cubs have basically stolen all of their pitchers for most of the season. So their record is just horrendous. They came in one of the last spots in the first half of the season, and they're 22-29 in the second half. They're not going to make the playoffs. These teams have 4 weeks left of the season. There's not a lot of time. The other thing that we probably will see, though, is some shuffling around. Knoxville is going to make the playoffs. They look like they're going to make the playoffs. They have kind of an interesting rotation. But Josiah Hartshorn is somebody who I think will probably get a call to Knoxville to partake in the playoffs. They like to do this. They did this a couple of years ago with some prospects like Matt Shaw and I think it was Moises Ballesteros, where they bumped him up right at the end and they just said, go help him in the playoffs. Go play a few. It's a great way to get your feet wet, which is also part of the reason why I think Owen Ayers is going to come up. I think it's with an eye to 2027. I don't think he's necessarily, and if you're worried about the development, because that's a lot of times that's the biggest pushback I get with the Cubs could bring up Owen Ayers is, well, he's going to miss playing time. Not really. It's not when we think of development. I was talking about it on Northside, and I'm gonna say it here too. I think a lot of times we have this bad habit of thinking that development only happens in front of our eyes. If they're not hitting in Iowa, they can't possibly be working on something, developing, or getting better. But I don't think that's how it works, right? A lot of that development happens behind closed doors. Owen Ayers just showed up one day, changed his hands. Mechanics were just different. Where did that happen? That didn't happen in front of you. That happened behind closed doors. These soft skills that a catcher needs to know his pitching staff, to have trust in them, to know where those pitches are going, to understand the movement profile. You're not going to see that in front of you. That's worked on in practice. That's worked on in side session bullpens. He can do all of those things. Not only do we have all of those things, but we have the traject machine. And this is a quip that I've been told. And I love this quip. If you're not familiar, Mitch, do you know what the traject machine is?
I do not.
Cool. Let me explain the traject machine. It's one of the coolest pieces of technology that teams have nowadays. It's essentially a pitching machine that can recreate any pitcher that you want.
I do know what it is then. I did not know that's what it was called.
Yes, it's called the traject machine. So for anybody else who doesn't maybe know what it is, it can recreate the spin, movement, arm slot, motion, and throw random balls and strikes and random pitch sequencing anytime you want it of any pitcher. And the
exact pitcher too. There's a guy on TikTok. There's a guy on TikTok who does videos
home runs
of him facing Mizorowski, and I didn't know that's what it was called. And I was like, man, this thing's pretty sweet.
That's a trajectory machine. Owen Ayers, from what I've been told and what I've heard from people who definitely know, locks himself in the trajectory machine and hits against Jacob Mizorowski again and
Wow.
again and again and again and again. And you don't see that. None of us see that. You wouldn't know. And I'm not going to sit here and say the traject is as good as a live plate appearance 1-to-1. But if you're going to sit there and you lock yourself in a room and you're going to hit traject over and over and over again against Mizorowski, you care. You really do. One other thing. So you missed this. Well, it's a quote that Jeremy shared with me last week. I didn't know this about Jeremy, but he's worked for some teams and everything like that. He actually scouted Nico Horner on the Cape League years ago. And my favorite quote that he gave me, and Jeremy, you're gonna have to forgive me for sharing this. I've been sharing it with anybody who could hear. It's one of my favorite things. He explained his quote that he had written down about Nico Horner on the Cape, and I adore this quote. And it was, "I can't tell if Nico Horner loves baseball more than anything or hates baseball more than anything." and I love that quote. I think it's perfect. And I want guys like that, right?
Yeah.
I want guys that you don't know where that line is. And if you sit there and you put yourself in a traject machine and you hit against Mizorowski over and over and over again while you're in AAA and you've just gotten there, like, that tells me where you sit on these kinds of things. Like, that's that kind of guy, right? That's the kind of guy who loves or hates baseball more than anything, because that's a punishment that you're putting yourself through that you don't have to. So all of that kind of wraps up with from every indication I get, I think when you see Jerry Weinstein tweeting about him, when you see how the Cubs dealt with the trade deadline, with his work ethic, with his rocket ship that he's just had, I think this organization adores Owen Ayers. And when you hear those little like anecdotes about him hitting against Mizorowski over and over again, it lets you know something. I think that that this is a team, and we can see it with Bregman, this is a team who really cares about those soft skills, which is also why I do think he will be here in September. I'm not guaranteeing it. I don't know. Nobody's told me anything. I'm guessing. But Sharma was talking about it a few weeks ago, and it perked my ears up with the way that the team treated him at like the deadline. It's perked my ears up. And I just sit here on August 25th, and I think Owen Ayers is going to be here in September. We're probably not going to see a lot of him, but I think we should all be very excited about him. I'm very excited about him. So I got my fingers crossed.
That'd be pretty sweet. That was a really, really good minor league report with Pepper in, some veterans like Justin Steele and Shelby Miller. The cool thing
it was a fun one. It's a little different,
Yeah.
We lost so many good soldiers of the trade deadline that we're at least gaining back some veterans like Justin Steele in the minor league report.
Yeah. The cool thing too about Shelby Miller is when he signed that 2-year deal, I remember thinking, and we talked about it. It was like, pump the brakes if you're a Cubs fan. This is more so with an eye towards 2027.
I never believed we'd be talking about him right now.
I know, it's so
unbelievable.
Cool for him. And if he shows out and gets that opportunity, he's a guy that I can learn to build some trust for in higher leverage spots coming out of the pen in the postseason.
I think so too.
One of those guys that
29% of hitters last year. Like, you can use that.
Yeah, he's seen just about everything he can see too. He's not going to be engulfed by the moment. So pretty damn cool to see that there's a chance for Shelby Miller to be out there in some big spots potentially for the Cubs. Kind of funnels into our last topic here, playoff picture. I think this is the first time we've really talked about it this year as far as a full-on topic point. And Fangraphs currently has it. The Cubs had a 9.7% chance to win the division, but if that's got you kind of down and gloomy, a 99.1% chance to make the playoffs. Something absolutely catastrophic would have to happen for the Cubs to not make the postseason. And just for fun, Fangraphs has the Cubs at a 5.6% chance to win the World Series, which would be, I'm just looking real quick, highest in the AL Central, highest in the AL West by quite a significant margin. Kind of shows you about the American League. But yeah, the odds to win the division are slim. If we're doing pie in the sky stuff, my thought, Jason, is I know I'll have to look. The Brewers have the Mets to start this week, and then is it the Rangers? Mets and Rangers, which we'll see.
Yeah.
But my thought is, man, if the Cubs can get that, right now they're 5.5 back. If they can get that to 4.5, 3.5 would be incredible by next week. And then you start the week with 4 against the Brewers at Wrigley Field. If you can get that to 4.5, again, I know this is like stretching it thin. People are going to laugh if you're not a Cubs fan. But if they could get it to 4.5 by the start of next week and then take 3 or 4 from Milwaukee, you're putting yourself in a spot where all of a sudden the pressure gets dialed up from Milwaukee. So I look at the 9.7% chance to win the division, and I'm like, is it, way off the mark? No. But I also am wondering how much of that factors in that, the Cubs still have 7 games left against the Brewers. Like the Cubs still get, if you're 5.5 back on August 25th, like the Cubs are, I want as many cracks as possible at the top team. I want the fate put in my hands a little bit. So the fact that the Cubs still have their chance to try to at least put a dent into the deficit. But yeah, if there's those who are like, oh my gosh, it's, they have no shot to win the division, 99.1% chance to make the playoffs. If the playoffs started today, it would actually it'd be a fun one. It'd be Cubs Phillies best of 3 at Wrigley Field. And just thinking about some of the matchups and Schwarber, coming back too, pretty cool. So yeah, the Cubs are in a spot where, I am glass half full, because we've seen plenty of years where August 25th rolls around and they don't have a 99.1% chance to make the postseason.
No.
So would I like to see them win the division? Absolutely. Are the Brewers a wagon? Absolutely. Are the Cubs, do they have no shot to win the division? No, they have a shot, and they still have 7 chances against the Brewers to try to put a dent into it. I always remind myself of perspective too, Jason. I try to with everything. If you zoomed out the microscope and I told you winding down August that the Cubs were 20 over 500, I think everyone signs on the dotted line for that.
Yeah, they do.
Everyone signs up for 76 and 56. The part that stinks is that you're still looking up because the team you're looking up at has the best record in all of baseball. But I don't think there's a soul in the world that rolls the dice and says they wouldn't sign up for 20 games over 500 at this point in the season. So I like where the Cubs are at. I mean, I'd like it if they were leading the division, but they still get 7 chances at Milwaukee. Again, they're 5.5 back entering play tonight. Can you somehow get that to 4.5, have a good week, Brewers slip up a couple times, and then you're 4.5 back starting next Monday, and you have 4 chances against Milwaukee at home? It sure would set the table for a hell of an intriguing series. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Cubs in the playoff picture.
If you want to be a little glass half full, we really don't have to go back very far to see a weird September. If we go back to August 25th, 2025, just want to take us back for a year. We're going to look at the AL Central. At the time last year, this day, the Detroit Tigers have the best record in the American League with 78 wins. They have a 99.9% chance to win the division. They are projected at 94 wins for the rest of the season with a strength of schedule under 500, right? 9.6 World Series percent, best chance in American League at the time. By the end of that year, the Cleveland Guardians, who had a 0% chance to win that division, won the AL Central. It can happen. It has happened. However, my Lee Corso not so fast moment is I'm going to take every day from here with the eye of it's not going to happen. And that doesn't mean to behave like it's not going to happen, but to look at every game as a way to get prepared the best for the playoffs. I'm not emptying the tank as of right this second to force a somebody like Justin Steele to come up before they're ready. I'm not going to put Ben Brown into too many innings. We can talk about that in the last 2 weeks of the season if that's down to 2.5 games. But as of right now, and I know that's kind of sacrilege on a Cubs podcast to basically, and I'm not writing it off, but I'm looking for, how do I make sure the 26 best players on my team are healthy and ready to go for whatever the very first game in the playoffs is. That's my number one goal as of now. I want all 26 guys that I want penciled into that lineup to be healthy and ready to go. So if that means not forcing Dansby back too soon, it means forcing Dansby. That means maybe holding off. And if he's feeling good with 2 weeks to go, I might hold him off a little bit. And I know that we kind of have this feeling we always have to win, but like I want that first game in the playoffs to be the best I can have. So that's how I'm kind of looking at it. And I think in a way the best Cubs team that we're going to see isn't really going to be until that first playoff game. Guys like Justin Steele and Ben Brown are going to take Shelby Miller or Edward Cabrera are going to take a little bit of time to get back on, online. We talked about Klay Holmes. His first start wasn't great with the Cubs. It was much better after that. So we've kind of, I think, as excited as I am for some of these guys to come back, there's probably going to be a couple of learning pains as they figure out like how they slot into the bullpen. Ben Brown and Justin Steele are not guys who are necessarily always accustomed to the bullpen. They have stuff that can handle the bullpen, but it's not really hasn't been their thing. And especially this year, Ben Brown hasn't been a bullpen guy for much of the year. He's done it in the past, but varying results. I just think, I want to get excited about it. I want it to happen. And if it's going to happen, it's probably going to be that first series at Wrigley Field. They go out, they take 3 out of 4. They close that gap to 3 games. The world is very different. If it's a 2-game split, it's
curtains.
Probably it's probably curtains on it, right? And that's okay.
Yeah.
You don't get an award at the end of nobody remembers who wins the division every year. They only win who wins the last baseball game. And I think that's all I care about. I care that the Chicago Cubs win the last baseball game that they have this season with a 99% chance to make the playoffs or whatever it is they have right now. What is
99.1? Yeah.
99.1. The 99.1% chance to make the playoffs. Something catastrophic would have to happen that winning the last game of the season wouldn't equate to a World Series, right? Only other way would be not making the playoffs and winning the last regular season game and not being in there. I don't think that's going to happen. So that's kind of where my goal is. And I know that feels sacrilege a little bit. I would love to catch the Brewers, but it just feels like probably at this point it's an unrealistic ask. And that's okay. I think it's okay to say today on August 25th, we might not catch the Brewers by the end of the season, but win that first series against whoever it is you're playing, the Phillies, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, whoever it is you get to play in that first wild card series, you get to beat them. And as of right now, if the season ended right now, right here today, your number 1 seed in the National League would be the Brewers.
Yep.
And that would be who the Cubs would get to go play. And you know what? That's the series that I really want. I want the Brewers in the playoffs. That's the one I really care about. You can give them the division if you can give me a 5-game series win. I'll take that trade-off every single time. Will it be more difficult than it's in Milwaukee? Yeah, sure. Do we still have to go through another team to get there? Absolutely. It's not a guarantee. But I would much rather play for that than empty the tank right now. And I think that's kind of my trade-off. And I know, again, that's not what people want to hear. I think they want to hear, I think they're going to win the division. And about a week and a half ago, when it kind of broke down to like maybe 4 games, like 3.5, I was kind of looking at it like with enough time, like, and the 7 games left, it's possible. 5.5 today, it's pretty unlikely. But hey, if they can get super hot and go get them, I'm here for it. The Brewers do have the best strength of schedule left in the division outside of the Reds. The Reds have an absurdly difficult schedule
because they play the Cubs and the Brewers multiple times.
Yeah, it's really difficult.
That's literally what it is. They have multiple series against the Cubs and the Brewers left.
Right? Yeah, it's got to be what it is. Yeesh, poor Cincinnati having a season. But we'll see. I'm rooting for it. I'm not writing it off, but I'm also, I guess I've just come to an acceptance point.
Level-headed about it.
If it doesn't happen, yeah, I'm going to be level-headed about it. I want to be cognizant of what the probable outcome is that we're not going to catch them, and I'm not going to let that bum me out at this point. Like, it would be great to knock them off, but man, just beat them in the playoffs, and that's what I really care about.
8:40 first pitch tonight. Klay Holmes on the bump. Matthew Boyd will finish it up tomorrow, and then the Cubs head back home where they have, 7 straight at home, 3 against the aforementioned Cincinnati Reds, who have that brutal schedule to finish the year, and then 4 against Milwaukee. I just, real quick, because it piqued my interest, I got to look at this Reds schedule now the rest of the way. All right. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Are you ready for this?
542. Man, it is an absurdly difficult
Can I
schedule.
read you
I think
who
it's
they
the
have
hardest in
left?
baseball. Yeah, please do.
So after the San Francisco series, the Reds play 3 against the Cubs, 3 against the Padres, 3 against the Brewers, 3 against the Dodgers, 3 against the Brewers, 4 against the Dodgers, 3 against the Cubs, 3 against the Braves, and then finish against Toronto. So they have 7 games left against the Dodgers, 6 against the Cubs, 6 against the Brewers, and 3 against the Padres. That is a bludgeoning waiting to happen. Poor Cincinnati.
Brutal. Oh my gosh.
My
I live
God.
just south of Cincinnati, so that one is yeesh.
They have that weird thing too in the schedule, Jason, where they so starting Friday, September 4th, all right? I won't make this too difficult. They go 3 at home against Milwaukee, at home in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And then 3 on the road in LA, and then 3 on the road in Milwaukee, and then 4 back at home against the Dodgers.
God, that's rude.
That's a 13-game stretch with nothing but the Dodgers and the Brewers, and then after the Dodgers, it's 3 against the Cubs.
Oh man.
And then the Braves.
God, somebody hates Nick Krall and the Reds out there. Oh boy, that sucks. That sucks, man.
I'm glad we looked at that.
That might be one of the most brutal Septembers I've ever heard of.
They're just playing a bunch of NL playoff teams.
Oh,
like
yeah. Not even just a bunch of NL playoff teams. They're playing the top 3 NL playoff teams, basically straight through again,
multiple series.
And
2 series against the Dodgers, 2 series against the Brewers, 2 series against the Cubs. And then just for good measure, here's a 3-game set against Atlanta.
No.
Good luck, Cincinnati.
There's another division leading team.
Yeah. 8:40 tonight, Klay Holmes on the bump. Cubs tried to take the series game 2 against Arizona. We appreciate everyone that's tuned in. If you're watching via YouTube, click the subscribe button as we build up the channel. He is Jason Ross. I am Mitch Whitmire. This has been another edition of the Northside Baseball Podcast.